promoting businesses and organizations to help them reach their full potential. Lighten the path to the success of your business. Enhancing the lives of our listeners by talking about things that matters most. Helping you to shine your light emotionally, mentally, spiritually, socially, and physically. Spreading positive vibes. You've got it locked and you're listening to Light Vibrations, brought to you by Lyte Communications right here on CBN Radio 90.9 FM. And now your host and our director, Natasha Letson.
Hello, you got it locked and you're listening to Light Vibrations here, chilling with me, Tasha T, aka Roxy, and today we have Alfreda on the program as we continue our series, Word on the Streets. Now, if you've been tuning in for the last few weeks, you've been hearing a lot about relationships, you know, the ups and downs of relationships, things that people expect, expectations and limitations within the relationships. And today, Alfreda is here to talk about building healthy relationships. So we're hoping that at the end of this program, you know, you will have a few more elements in your arsenal to, you know, continue to build healthy relationships. Welcome to the program, Alfreda.
Thank you, Natasha, and I'm glad to be on this program with you. The topic, as you said, is building healthy relationships, and I do believe that I do have a healthy relationship because healthy relationships is not only just about the relationship between a man and a woman, but it's also between God. God is the first step in a relationship, and then everything else comes off of God. And I believe that with God in the middle, or with God at the center, then of course we can all have healthy relationships. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. As you know, God is always central in our everyday lives. Tell us a little bit about your background. Tell us a little bit about your relationship. How long have you been married? And, you know, was God always there in the beginning, or was it something that came along the way?
Okay, I've been married for the past 8 years now to Claudius, and we have been together for about 17 years. So we weren't always married, but we knew God. We knew who God was. And even though we were not pursuing God at the time, we still kept Him involved in our relationship. And even though, yes, you know, as young people, we stray sometimes and we make mistakes, but at the end of it, the Bible says that if you train up a child, he will not depart. So I would attest that I had the foundation from the time I was small, and even though I strayed, I came back to the source of everything, which is God. And I'm thankful because I believe that because God is involved in my relationship is much more stronger and better because He is one of the key factors that play a role in our relationship.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on that. You know, in our past shows, we had a lot of guests coming on talking about, you know, some of the things in their relationship that keep it stifled or, you know, not growing how, you know, they would like for it to grow. One huge part was when people come on the show was talking about how you actually form relationships. And is that a part of building a healthy relationship? What are some of the things that you were looking for as an individual as you were out there on the dating scene, and how important was that view or perception of what you wanted to you actually getting what you want?
Okay, for me growing up, life was a bit tough. And at an early age, I had afternoon and summer jobs. So for me, I always knew that I had to push to get whatever I wanted in life. It was not going to be handed to me. And I had certain goals for myself. Like I set goals to determine who and what roles and places, areas that I would go down. And when I met with my husband, there was, everybody would say there was something different, something special. And around the same time I met my husband, I also started to really go to church a lot more. and I am beginning to learn a lot of different things that I didn't know about as growing up, or maybe they said it, but being young, you never paid attention to certain things until you get a little older and life became more serious. And then I realized from even with my apostle, Colonel Foy, that we have to set standards and have expectations. Both persons have to be like on the same path, because one of the key things that I'm trying to even teach my children even right now is that in the Bible it talks a lot about being unequally yoked, and persons take it only as a person who may go to church and may not go to church. That's being unequally yoked. Or if I go to Methodist and another person goes to Anglican, that's being unequally yoked. But it's not only about those two areas. It's about having a mindset like, I want to save, and the other person just wants to squander everything every day. Or I want to go to college, and that person could care less about returning back to school. And so you have to make sure that you're not only, as he says, you don't have to only look for someone on the outside who might fit the quote-unquote BET or the worldly magazine model type view, because sometimes you find that a person might pick somebody who has the qualities, but then the person doesn't still fulfill, they don't feel fulfilled because that person only looks good one way and then they just don't add up in other areas. And it's good to kind of find that balance, because you don't want to be locked into a relationship to find out, in a marriage especially, that you're trapped and you don't know how to get out, or you're too embarrassed to come out, and you done made the decision to be there. So I think it's very important for us to talk, spend a lot of time getting to know the person, because one thing I've learned and I try to tell my children is that, as my apostle would say, a person can only pretend with you for about 6 months, and after the 6 months the real person comes out. Mm-hmm. So then therefore, if it takes about 6 months to really get to know somebody, and back then I didn't really know that, but I know that now, mm-hmm. and because knowledge is power, I'm going to try my best to educate my children, and hopefully they will educate their peers, and then they will continue the cycle. So as to having a healthy relationship, what a healthy relationship looks like, because it's true, sometimes you might have a person who pretends to like apples just because you like apples, and then you find out along the road, I was only doing that because you like it. So you wait to really get to know the real person and not rush into things. Try to make sure that the decisions that you make during the relationship are meaningful, because you don't want to have regrets along the line. No, that person isn't for me, but then you already done open up everything to that person, and now you have to live with the shame or the hurt that this person maybe has your name scandalized all over the place, and now you have to try to earn trust now from the next maybe person that you encounter. So it's important to really understand what qualities you're bringing forward and what qualities that person is bringing forward, because that's the determining factor whether that relationship is going forward or that relationship is just going to remain as a friend.
Mm-hmm. Awesome stuff, Alfreda. I love the part about being unevenly yoked, and the good thing about this program is, despite I'm interviewing different people, the information is connecting, because we had people on here before talking about being unevenly yoked or being evenly yoked, and that doesn't mean that about religion. It means about every facet of your life when it comes to building these relationships. And another thing that you said that was profound was to educating your children. Coming up, we had to learn things from our peers, and if you trying to learn things, they're trying to learn things. What kind of information we really getting out in these streets? And then now it's even worse now, because they're getting all kind of bad advice from things that they might be following on Facebook and these social media platforms that are leading the children further astray. And who are they looking at? They're looking at people in our age group acting a fool over these platforms. So if they're looking at us acting a fool and they don't know any better, they're getting sensitized into the wrong things. So the point that you made about, educating the children, that has been my sole mission from since I knew myself. I say, whenever I see kids, they're going to learn from me. I'm not going to lie to them. They come to me. In fact, I'm going to encourage them to come to me. I'm going to share my experience. And another thing I find too, our mother's generation, they did not share any information. You could go, mommy, ask him questions. The child go sit down. It's almost like they were ashamed of the path that they learned, and they was like, okay, yeah, sink or swim because we sunk or swim. And that's not good. So I'm glad that you actually have that viewpoint to educate the children. And, we hoping that, other parents out there will continue to do the same. Be a positive role model for your children and educate them. Don't be afraid to show them where you went wrong and tell them how to correct that error. Now, Alfreda, you talked about, so many positive things there. When you were when you met with Claude initially, and, I was in the dating phase, what were some of your expectations that you had for him or had for a male going into a relationship? When you decided that, yes, I am ready to marry you, how did those expectations compare to, the fruits that he was bearing?
For me, when I met him, I always had like a sort of a rule in my own head. And my rule had stipulations as to what things I'm going to do, where I'm going to go, and certain things like that when I'm interested in someone. And I think that rule kept me safe from a lot of mistakes in life, and I try to, even now that I have recently a 12-year-old daughter, I try to tell her form a rule. So I try to use that same principle for her and show her that if a boy likes you, which I'm not promoting her dating right now, I told her there's enough time for that in the near future, because today you like somebody, tomorrow you hate them. Not literally hate, but you don't like them the way you thought you did, and I try to tell her that, have a little expectation for yourself, so that if he truly feels like he cares about you, then he should be able to respect you, respect your body, respect your mind, respect everything about you. So give yourself like a time frame and say to yourself, okay, I'm not going to hold his hand until a month in the relationship, 2 months in the relationship. And if he can't honor that, then that alone signals that he doesn't really care about you. So for me, with my husband, we had our criteria, and it was amazing because I had my criteria, but my husband would tell me that he saw something different about me from others, and he realized that he can't probably do what he wanted to do when he wanted to do, because he's like, something is different. And so to me, he saw something different in me, and that made him even want to stay or even want to pursue me the length that I wanted to hold different things. And it helped the relationship to grow, because now he kind of came into like a different mindset that this, there are people out there that, are different, word chasing, because my eldest son, he would always remember, my apostle says that the Bible says the man that findeth a wife findeth a good thing. And my son had a hard time when he entered high school with girls pursuing him. And when he would not take them on, because he talks to me about everything. And we have that open relationship, something, as you said, we didn't have when we were growing up. Mm-hmm. But my children come to me from small with questions, and I try to answer them the best way that I can, honestly. I don't try to hide anything from them. And because of that, we have that trust where, yes, they might mess up and do something that maybe I might not want, but I wouldn't kill them or chastise them, because the fact that they can come to me openly and say something to me, I feel honored. And my thing is to find out how do I help them overcome this hurdle now? How do I help them, conquer this challenge that they're facing, this wall in front of them? So it's for me to show them techniques and strategies, to be a better person and not stay there and wallow in, their little self-pity, because I don't want them to live in self-pity. We all make mistakes when nobody's perfect, but I don't want them to stay there. I want them to realize, hey, boy, I might could have held his hand a little faster than I wanted to, but I could do better. And so with me and him, with my husband and I now, pursuing each other, we had lots of dates, where we of course ended by good night. And it's like, where do you find in the 20th century people just go on dates and end with a good night instead of something different, but and today we laugh about it, and today we even talk about it, and we even share with our children. Like, yesterday we were talking to our eldest son again, and we were we told him we remember exactly our first date. We remember even the first kiss, because it was meaningful. It wasn't something where we were randomly just doing whatever and then we can't even remember. We both of us remembered it to a T, and we were just laughing because it was special. And then that's what we really need our children to realize, that they don't have to rush doing anything. Everything is gonna be there, it's gonna be waiting, and that's what we're preaching to all. It doesn't matter whether it's a boy or a girl. It doesn't put boys off the hook and then put girls feeling a way that, oh, you mustn't do this and oh, you can't go there. The same expectations we have for our sons, which, and we have 2 sons, we have for our daughters. And so we want them to know that at the end of the day they made a good choice, and knowing that God honors that choice. So
did you guys have marriage counseling? And was that a help? And in times where there have been difficulties in the relationship, how would you handle that?
Okay, so we did not have marriage counseling. And I'm so pleased that even though we didn't have counseling, that we are still able to have a healthy relationship. And as I said before, I've learned so much about even relationships at church, where my apostle broke so many things down and helped us to see how we need to communicate, how we need to get along with one another, how to not really compromise, meaning it's not about who gets the last say in, it's not about who chose the last word, it's not about none of that, but we have to be able to give and take. That's what I'm looking for. We have to learn how to give and take. And so even though we didn't have counseling, and even though yes, we didn't know certain things, the point is we still grew. So now we still gain wisdom as the years pass, and because of the wisdom that we have, the relationship is much stronger, because he knows how far to push things for me. I know how far to push things for him. He knows what I expect of him. I know what he expects of me, and therefore I try my best to represent him when I step out of the house, and he tries his best to represent me when he steps out of the house, because we have that understanding. And I think that understanding is what helps keep the relationship together. And when we have our challenges, which in every relationship does. I remember one time I read this book about building your marriage or something like that. Something with marriage though. And little, like my apostle was saying, little things would get to us and cause relationships to come apart. And instead of the book said something that to me meant so much. The book said, if you're working and you have an extra $100, and instead of just maybe banking it or probably going to a restaurant and buying something to eat, and you know that extra $100 you can pay somebody to come and probably clean all of your windows, clean up the house on a whole for you. And if you know to clean your house maybe on a Saturday, it takes you 3 hours, and because of that 3 hours of cleaning, you didn't get to spend any time with your family or your husband. Take the money, pay somebody to do it, so that you have 3 hours to spend with your family. And I sat back and I looked at that thing and I said, wow, that thing makes so much sense. And so for me, instead of like quarreling or worrying about little simple things like who didn't wash up the dishes last and having hard feelings and going to sleep angry and so forth over nonsense, you know, you walk out things like that. And then as especially when the children got a little bigger and they too could help out with chores around the house, which in yes, I put my children to do chores. They also assist me. So if I have a flaw that my husband sees, instead of he continually pointing out the flaw to me and then I'm probably getting upset, he would probably assign one of the children to whether move your mommy shoes on the side. Whenever you see your mommy shoes over there in the corner where you know I don't like to see them, just move them. And so that helps to not cause arguments and contention between of us because of simple little things. And so we have found tactics or strategies in order to avoid getting into little petty arguments and instead just focus on each other the time that we have together.
I love that, and we all know that when the little arguments could separate you the length of a football field if they go unchecked, you know. So I mean, it's very important that when your husband or your mate, your significant other, you know, sheds light on a problem that she's having with you in a relationship, you should try your best to address it and move forward from that, because when you continually ignore those little stuff, it turns into big stuff. But I love that strategy where, you know, treat them kids. I know for me, when my children get to be old enough, the only reason I would wash up the dishes now is if I want to cook and they didn't clean the kitchen. I will go in and I will clean my kitchen and I will cook. But otherwise, that I'm not touching any dishes. They're going to fight among themselves. It's two of them washing up. Oh, I washed yesterday. No, I washed yesterday. Well, if you can't figure out who washed yesterday, I ain't getting involved and don't let me solve your problems. You know, and then when my big girl, I keep telling them when she gets to be 8, she gonna wash up. And they counting up, mommy, she don't reach 8. She need to wash up. The one telling me, oh, he washing since he was 7. I'm like, boss, he ain't washing from 7. Okay, nah. Yes, you need to give your children chores, and you definitely those type of issues where, you know, you don't have to, you know, take that on, that extra stress, you know, because it's a lot dealing with children, especially when you have, you know, 3-4 children, you know, it's a lot. And when they get to be certain age, we can't pet them up and cuddle them, because that too will put a strain on our relationship. Because if we doing, like I say, the ball has to drop somewhere, and usually it's with self. And then when you're looking as good and when you have the energy to do the things, you know, that your husband, your significant other, your wife want, then that's an extra problem in the relationship. So look quite ahead and share the responsibilities in the house. No. In terms of your vision of what being a wife look like to you, what do you feel, what was your perception of, okay, I am about to marry this man that I love, this man I want to spend the rest of my life with. What do I have to do as a woman? What did you see yourself doing as a woman, as a wife, when you took on that role?
Well, I didn't see myself doing anything really besides being a wife. And I know that, okay, a wife means you have children, you make sure that you keep the house, and everything is in order until daddy reaches home or husband reaches home. And then, of course, you know, you try your best to please him. And which in all of that sounds all fine and dandy, because I think that's a role that we all condition from a child, meaning girls, with playing with dolls and keeping house and with these, you know, these different little things with kitchen sets and all of those things. But then reality kind of hits you when you actually get into it. And it comes back to, as I said, with a thing where you're so busy doing everything. By the time you finish a day, you know, you're working. When most moms work or most mothers work, and then you come home and you're trying to keep house, and especially the kids are kind of small, and you have to make sure that you deal with them as well. And then now, so when you're finished with all of that, you're tired. So then how can you really, please him and do all of that? So it comes back to strategy. You have to balance, you have to create a balance. You have to know what tasks to take on. You have to know what to say no to, because sometimes family needs certain things from you as well. Your job requires certain things. So you have to use strategy. You have to know what things to bring home, whether from work or not, or wherever else, and what things to say no to, because it's no more just you, it's a family, it's you and your husband. So you have to make the distinction between both in order to keep that relationship going, flowing, meaningful, making it feel like as if like the first day. Basically, you don't want a relationship to dwindle and feel like as if it's useless anymore. You just want to keep it going. So for me, as I said, I didn't really have an expectation. I was just excited that, okay, I'm gonna be married, hey, and this is a person that I care about. But then here comes everything else with it that comes along with it, dealing with the children, washing up the dishes, cleaning the bedroom, still going to work, ironing, cooking. So the whole thing just tumbled down, and I'm like, okay, that's a lot. So then, you have to prioritize. So basically.
So once again, Alfreda, we want to thank you for coming on the program today and, sharing a part of your life with us as, we seek to empower, enlighten, and edify here on Light Vibrations. But before I let you go, I want you to, leave us with some tips of how we can build healthy relationships.
All right, so to build a healthy relationship, basically, we need to remember that we need to have God involved, number one. We need to learn how to listen to each other, and we have to put aside sometimes our own wants or needs in order to make that other person feel special at times. We have to communicate. Communication is a big factor. I mean, I know men don't really like to talk, most men, but you have to make sure that your significant other speaks to you regularly. You don't want the television to be his main source, or even somebody else or another friend or something. You have to make sure that you're there, because if you're not getting him to communicate with you, then that means that something is wrong. He should be able to open up and speak to you just like how you would speak to him and share everything about the day with him. So if, communication, you have to make sure that y'all are communicating on a daily basis. Sometimes, yes, you might have a hectic day and you didn't get to communicate on that day, but don't let 2-3 days pass without you catching up or catching him up with things that have been happening to you or in your life while he wasn't there. So, to have that healthy growth continually, we must remember, we have to put God in the middle of it, praying together at times, if not every day. But we have to pray together. You have to communicate, and you have to be able to compromise. As I said, sometimes you might have to use the children to do stuff for you in the house in order to bring peace. Do it. That's what they're there for, because you're still teaching them any which ways. When they get their turn, how to solve issues, how to, not dwell on the past. So I would say those 3 are big on my chart for building healthy relationships.
Awesome stuff, awesome. Once again, you've had it locked and you've been listening to Light Vibrations here, chilling with me, Tasha T, aka Roxy, and our guest, Alfreda, as we spoke about building healthy relationships. We invite you to tune in this time next week for another edition of Word from the Street. Blessings.
Thank you for tuning in to Light Vibration, and don't forget to tune in this time next week as we continue to bring you life-changing information. Until next time, shine